niggas start to loke out. A kid got choked out, blows was thrown, and a fucking fight broke out. Coming out like a motherfucker. The nigga was amped. Like, come on, motherfucker. Can't we just all get along so I can put piggies on the chest like little Sean? Get up,
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Finding Strength. I'm up here in Brantford, Connecticut with legendary Derek Poundstone. I've been doing Finding Strength for a little over a year, and I just don't think it could ever be complete without getting one of the best, strongman in history involved. So,
well,
how have you been doing?
Good, Zach. It's been a while, man.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you in
I think since the last time you competed at the Arnold.
2012, I think. Yeah,
2012, 2013, when you tore your bicep on the...
Yeah, I think that was that 2013?
I think that was 2013, yeah.
It's all blur.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Oh, time flies. I think so I first met you back, were you with Boss in 2008?
2008 Steve Slater's contest.
Were you like 12 then?
No, I was about 25, I think.
Really?
Yeah, I'm older than I look.
Yeah, it's just funny. Yes, we're about the same age then.
Yeah, I'm 34.
Oh, yeah. So I'm 2 years older. I'm 36. Well, I'll be 36 in a week and a half.
So what have you been up to since, the past couple of years? You've been kind of out of the spotlight.
Yeah, it's funny, out of the spotlight, but just doing the same thing I've done for, I'll be 36, so the same thing I've done for, most of my adult life, which is just what I enjoy, and that's always the gym. I still work out and still lift like an absolute maniac, I tore my bicep giving a little attempt at Strongman again. But at the end of the day, it's living the lifestyle that sort of strength allows me to. That sounds kind of goofy, but I like to, I work hard. I go to the gym. I like to train hard and then live my life. It's kind of weird, but if I'm in front of a ton of people or I'm not, I still kind of train the same way.
Still have that same mindset.
Yeah, it's kind of anyone that's ever seen me train at like a gym. It definitely. I hate to say it, but I kind of like the attention. But I just train like a lunatic. Not like yelling, screaming and stuff, but just I like to lift heavy weight. I enjoy that feeling of a big deadlift in my hands. I'm still right now, even not doing anything, no training for anything, no competing. I'm still a 800-pound deadlifter and. Squats are alright, knee problem, big bench. I enjoy lifting big weight. I like that feeling in my hands,
Yeah.
So, and before that, before training at the gym I'm at now, I was training in my garage, which I think is the ultimate,
Yeah. So we were talking about it before, we sat down for this, kind of the mindset thing. Well, how'd you get into Strongman to begin with, and kind of what was your mindset going into it, and how did you push yourself as far as you did?
Zach, for me, Strongman was always, I saw it on TV and I liked it, and it kind of paralleled my training philosophy. And I hate that sounds kind of weird, but as an 18, 19-year-old kid, I wasn't really impressed by the guys that were in the gym. I remember seeing this like insanely jacked dude like doing 70-pound dumbbell shoulder presses. And I remember my mom came to the gym with me and she's like, he looks big, and he's strong. And I'm like, 70-pound dumbbells? It's not strong, and I'm doing 100-pound dumbbells as a teenager, and to me that was it. Like, and it was one of those things. I think a lot of young guys can relate, and that's kind of the problem. We're a bunch of meatheads and we like to lift really heavy stuff, but we do, most of us have done it or are doing it incorrectly. So my mindset was always to go out there and learn the craft, the skill, and I think that anyone that I wouldn't say anyone, but a lot of people that I've had the great pleasure of working out with or training with or spending any period of time with, can attest to that. I'm a student of the art, of strongman. And when I say strongman, I don't mean just strongman competing. I mean just what it really embodies is just being universally strong and I think it's kind of a little bit of an ego thing, but it's also I enjoy, some people are great woodworkers and I enjoy the just the feeling of lifting heavy weight,
So who are some of your mentors coming in? Like how'd you learn to train for Strongman?
Back in the I turned pro in 2004. I started competing in 2003 and I started training Strongman in 2003. my mentors were guys they're at that in early 2000s. That you had to drive across a state, or into another state to train strongman.
Yeah.
So there was no place in Connecticut really to train. I used to drive out to train with Ben Lambosis and Gerard Benderoff, out in upstate New York. And I remember seeing Ben's brother, I forget his name, doing like this crazy 700-pound Conan's Well. He's this tall, skinny dude. I'm like, how is it possible? I just love the idea. And they had a plaster of Paris Atlas stone, that we had to pick up in the grass so we didn't break it, And I remember Gerard was pulling his pickup truck up and down the street, and I was flipping a tire.
Yeah.
I mean, I drove 2 hours, each way to flip a tire and lift the plaster of Paris Atlas stone, So, those were the guys that really influenced me. And I remember first that I met Ben, because the first time I competed against him in the first Beast of the East, which was out in Pennsylvania. He had the United States shaped into his hair on the back of his head. And anyone who knows Ben, I mean, he's just he's a really cool dude, and really taught me a lot about the competitive mindset. And it's unfortunate. I wish I stayed in touch with him more throughout the best parts of my career, but everyone has that sort of mentor, and I was lucky that I got some guy, that Ben, maybe he doesn't even realize, but he just really, his enthusiasm struck me, and he used to always tell me that, because I won the BCs. He would have told me if I wasn't there, it would have been his first win. He'd have waited a couple more years, but then he became a lightweight and heavyweight pro, and the guy's a freak, and that's what I like. I like that sort of that gritty competitive spirit, is not doing it when it's pretty up on stage like at the Arnold, or pretty on TV like World's Strongest Man. I like the garage training, the the old videos of doing 400-foot yoke walks, and if you remember back in 2008, I had a great pleasure of being able to come out and test the frame when they made the frame a little heavier. Yeah. And it was freezing cold in the barn, and I couldn't warm up, and I'm like, I'm so excited, and I was like, I moved it 10 feet, and I was like, that is really heavy. Too heavy? And Steve was too, no, it's not, but it's just almost stone cold picking up a 900 or 880 pound frame,
Yeah. Was that the year it was 900, or was that the year it was 11?
No, that was either 880 or 900. It was 2008. I forget what it was, but that was the last of the no strap years, one of the last of the no strap years, and I ended up doing pretty well. I dropped it, picked it up, and finished it, I think, or just whatever the case may be. But I remember, just cold going in a barn and picking up, and I loved that sort of stuff. And everyone's like, "Do you think it's a good idea?" Bad back. I'm like, why not? I brought 4 guys. It's just that mindset. And if you hear the term warrior mentality and stuff, it's not that sexy, I guess. It's just, we're a bunch of knuckle draggers. I speak for myself, I don't want to classify you.
I completely, I do things every week where I say, if one of my clients did this, I would punch him in the face, but to me, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm the type of guy who tore my bicep, and I show everybody every chance I get. I'm like, look, it looks sweet. It looks better. Doesn't it, though?
That's on my right pec. I tore that, and now it's all kind of balled up, and it looks good when,
in the mirror, just the right lighting.
So are you still doing a lot of event training?
None. Just with, my life has taken, I don't really get what I want, in life, and thank God, because I'm an absolute lunatic, and I mean that, I drove fast cars, and I recently I bought an insanely fast bike. Thank God someone stole it, because I'd probably be dead. But and my kids came along, and Jordan and Callan, my daughter turns 3. You can see the toys all around my daughter. Yeah. Her birthday, we had a party for her yesterday, but her birthday's Tuesday. Okay. And my son's just over here. He's 15 months next week. So, they're the priority now. But the funny thing is, I think people try to fit it in, and it's like you just put something on the back burner. It's all right. And Strongman's one of those things that the event training, if you will, is one of those things that it'll always be there. You know, I mean, you might lose a little bit of strength, but you never forget the feeling of a heavy yoke. Yeah. I've done a lot of yoke and farmer frame, whatever, stones, dumbbell, log. I trained for 2 weeks before I went out to Summer Mania. Summer Mania out in Southampton, England. Tore my bicep on the first event, but I pretty sure I would have been, somewhat competitive, not like fantastically strong.
Yeah.
Maybe had like a mid 300-pound log and done some pretty good reps on the deadlift and such. But it'll always be there. And I only really train 2 or 3 days a week now, but I enjoy it a whole lot more because I'm doing it for fun. And
doing it for yourself.
that's the most important thing. Yeah.
So when you were training, hard, what was kind of your philosophy, your training philosophy? How did you approach events? How did you approach getting ready for a contest?
Well, don't mistake the lack of event training and the 2-3 days of the gym for like a cakewalk. I mean, I brutalize myself still because I'm a moron. I'm a knuckle dragger, as I said. I'm a meathead. So I still train like an absolute animal. But the difference is, I can only really truly be great at one thing at a time. And for me, it's so much more important to be a great dad, and that means I cannot be, injured and or walk around, with a sore back. When I'm spending time with my kids, I'm at the park, I'm on the floor with them. I really want to be present. And to me, that's the most important thing. And I had spent better part of a decade being really selfish. And I want to be the best version of myself, which has changed. Before it was the best version of me was being really strong and great endurance and winning however many competitions I could win. Now the best version of myself is what's the best version of myself for my kids, and that's it's different. And I love it. It's I still like to lift weights. I still go to the gym. I still train hard, only a couple days a week. I try not to get injured, which is why I don't do strongman stuff, because I find that everything, the weight doesn't feel different, but it's different on my body. So like I feel like I could do a 900-pound yoke pretty easy, but then my knees are really, really hurt. Or I feel like I can do a heavy log, but then when I clean it, it hurts my bicep, my torn bicep. So squat, bench, deadlift are the big 3 lifts I do, and train kind of like a psychotic bodybuilder or something.
Yeah. No. So, what kind of made you shift away from strongman? I mean, obviously your kids, but was there anything else besides that when you just kind of said, I'm done with this, or?
Yeah, for me, my last competition was 2013. Yeah, after the Arnold, I did Australia's, the FitX, which the next year became the Arnold in Australia, and Tony Doherty is just an amazing host, and a great guy, and when I went out there, and he really, I was injured. I got injured at the Arnold. A lot of people know, but I tore my bicep, the same bicep that I just tore it on the inside. This is a short head tear. The other one was a long head, a tear of the muscle fibers on the long head. But what happened is I was still competing. I was warming up for the deadlift, and I think Ed Cohen was backstage, and I was warming up, and I pulled like a monster, like 900-pound deadlift from the floor, getting ready to pull, because I was in open with like 1,100 or something crazy with just over 1,000, I think it was. Might have been 1,100. I was open with a big pull, and the reason being is I figured that the more tires, the pull would be more dynamic, which plays more into my hand. I'm a puller that can just forklift through as once I get that weight moving, and so I really want to get my CNS stoked, and I pulled this like low 900-pound pull, and I felt a tear in my I thought it was a tear, but it turned out it wasn't. But I felt an insane pull in my lower back because I was twisted because my bicep was hurt. So I was favoring my right arm, so I was obviously, my left arm was under, with straps still, and normally I do double overhand with the straps, but because my right arm wasn't, I couldn't squeeze really hard because the bicep was killing me. And just that small little change, I felt an insane like stabbing pain in my back. I thought I tore my rector. I was in pain on the flight home, and so I dropped out of the FitX. Tony tried to get me to go, and I said no. And he said, just come on, Judge. I was like, okay. And then, as what's happened a couple times in my career on the flight, I'm like, okay, I'll compete. And I land and I said, I'm gonna compete. And as much as it was a great competition, I'm glad I got to compete against one of my great friends, Nick Best. I left there like with a really bad taste, and it wasn't for the competition, it wasn't for anything else, but it was like, what am I doing? I just felt physically ill.
Yeah.
And I came home and I was sick for a period of like 2 months, physically sick, like I got a cold, I had like bilateral pink eye and all that other stuff, but was worn down, but I just was sick and tired,
Yeah.
of being this sort of one-trick pony, like strongman athlete, and then I felt like I was letting other parts of my life slide. So I kind of took a breather, and then later that year is when Mike Jenkins ended up passing, and I said, you want to know what, I can't, was that 2013 or 2014?
I believe that was 2014.
14, yeah. I think it was
2013.
It was 2013.
Yeah, because I remember Phil Brown passed the next year.
Yes, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Big Phil, yeah, big guy. Yeah, so years kind of all run together, but that was a big thing for me, and I knew what knows Mike was like, he ate like perfect. He was so good with his training. He was so methodical, and I'm like a bull. I felt like I'm a bull in a china shop eating mac and cheese and steak and Ben and Jerry's, and training for 3 hours a day. And I was like, God, man, if that can happen to him.
Yeah.
And I got a little scared. And from that, ironically, short time later, Kristen gets pregnant with my daughter, and life took again, I didn't really think that that's what I wanted at that particular time in my life. I figured that I was wanted the money, fame, and fortune of competing, or perceived money, fame, and fortune, but I got a family, and but the training changed, the competing stopped, but my life continued on that sort of path that leads to wherever it's going, and I still I still have lots of warm memories of competing, and who knows what the future holds.
So why did you come back and try to do that one show? Just felt like giving it a run, or?
Well, so what ended up happening for me was I purposely lost a ton of weight. I got down to like 280 or 290, and which was, I think, really shocking, because in 2013 I was up to like right around 350 or 340. I got really heavy and really strong. And when I retired, I just stopped. I bought the big house, the pool, the cars. I just lost all desire to go to the gym, and I just would kind of goof off in my garage, and still was pretty strong. So I let training kind of fall to the back burner, which it should have. I was a really attentive parent, and then my son came around a year and a half after my daughter, 2 years after my daughter, a year and a half, and then something kind of struck me. I was kind of goofing off in my garage gym, and I had since closed my gym because there just wasn't enough time in a day to be a parent and work full time as a cop and train and run a gym in my free time, which there was none of. So I just ended up, once my son was getting close to a year, I think it was probably around April, I started just training a little bit harder, and felt good. I was already fairly strong, so I got a call, and I guess I have a hard time saying no. So I was like, yeah, why not? Trained twice and went out there and tore my bicep at the first event, which was kind of a little gut check, a little reality check. Ego got a little better of me, and I don't think a lot of people would have said yes really without having trained. And I just I guess I needed it. Yeah. To see where I was at, and I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon. But who knows?
Yeah, I know a lot of people got really excited for that when you're making a comeback, and we got a lot of people got bummed that you tore your bicep on that event, but
and ultimately that's what I got out of it. It was exactly what you said. I mean, I was shocked. Like even when you said a legend in the sport, I think that to me just sounds so weird. Because my life I surround myself with the same people. No, I mean, occasionally people recognize me, and people in the gym will get all like fangirlish, but for the most part, I've heard like rumblings of people that think I'm an asshole, and they forget that I'm not used to that, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not. I think anyone that probably when we first met, you know, and I was relatively nobody then, you know. I just had done World's Strongest Man. I think no, I didn't do World's Strongest Man.
I think that was your first year.
Yeah, that was my first year later on. I don't know how to deal with people being excited to meet me, I guess. You know,
Yeah.
I just, you know, I think if some people really crave that, and I don't, you know, not that I don't like it. I mean, I just don't know how to deal with it. And even to this day, it's not who I am. I mean, I'm not an asshole.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've heard people, you know, that have said, oh, you know, I met him and he was an asshole. Man, I'm really socially awkward. And a lot of us are.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I completely agree with you on that. It's, you know, a lot of people go into these sports, strength sports especially, because we do have a social awkwardness. It's kind of it's a different mentality that a lot of people on the outside of it don't really understand.
Yeah, and strength sports have grown, you know, exponentially over the last decade.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. You're seeing these, you know, the young guys getting into sport, young ladies getting into sport, or guys getting into sport in their 30s because they like, hey, well, I can do that, which is fantastic. But then you get some of the people that gravitate to sport, like me or you, or like a Mike Jenkins. I don't think really he was social awkward, but I mean, he obviously got into sport because he's just such a ginormous kid. If you saw him when he was a young guy.
Yeah.
And I remember he was out there at World's Strongest Man 2008. You see his like head like 6 inches above everybody else's. Like, hey, what's up? You know, it's just so funny. You know. But I think a lot of us, especially, you know, that really have been grinding in the sport for over a decade, you know, competitively. And when I say competitively, I don't mean like best in the world. I'm talking people that training, doing their thing, you know, they don't give it up because they hurt their back. They don't give it up because their girlfriend left them. They don't give it up because, you know, they change a job. The guys and the girls that have been doing this for, you know, for a long time, you know, and for me, it's been a long time. It's been 15 years. Of doing this competitively. So, you know, we tend to be cut from a little different cloth. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's a sport that, you know, it's a lifestyle that will eat you up and spit you out. You know? It'll make you question why you're doing it a lot. And if your answer is it's not worth it, then it's not worth it. No one faults you for it. You know, go try something else. Yeah. And that's fantastic because you open your eyes to something different. But if you're like, I want more, you know, then there's more out there. You know, as much as and now there's as much as you can swallow. You know. Oh yeah, the opportunities are growing tremendously, and that's been one of the kind of things that I've been trying to show is, you know, with this project and everything else is when we started. You know, you started before me, but I started 2007. Like the idea of a strongman gym that are popping up everywhere was insane. Like, oh my god,
nobody had that anywhere. I mean. And now they're everywhere. There's at least 2 or 3 in most states. So,
yeah, you know, the idea, like we were just talking about Matt Mills's gym. You know, the idea of a facility like that, but I would, you know, I'd be the first to sign up. You know, which is why I put my gym together. And you know, the only reason my gym didn't succeed was me. I mean, I just didn't have enough time. But you know, the amount of people that wanted to and had made that their home, you know, is humbling. You know, so there's no shortage of, you know, pick your toy, if you will. You know, you can, you know, strongman, you could train heavy, you could train light, you can do, and I you know, a lot of people want to differentiate between powerlifting and strongman and CrossFit. But at the end of the day, you know, just pick whichever you like. You know, and I used to not really like, you know, CrossFit because I was like, you know, I don't get it. You're really good at exercising, but at the end of the day, they're you know, it's all the same. You know, and I've learned that if you're doing 150-pound farmers for, you know, a mile or whatever, you know, or if you're doing a 800-pound frame carrier, 900-pound or 1,100-pound frame carrier for 25 feet, you know, at the end of the day, you know, who cares who's profiting from it? Who cares? You know, people are getting out what they need to get out. You know, and that's what's important, and that's the mind shift, the shift that I've gotten. And right now, I don't really need to get, you know, to do a farmer or frame carry because I do plenty of damage in the gym. You know, just lifting up heavy stuff there. But you know, I don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. I don't know what next month's going to hold or next year, you know, and that's a cool thing about you know, your series is learning different mindsets and ideals behind, you know, what it is to be strong and how to get there. Because there's no one way, you know.
Appreciate it. So if somebody coming new into Strongman, all your experience, ups, downs, what would your advice to them be?
Oh my God, you know, stick with it.
Yeah.
Strength is one of those things that I see plenty of guys that get strong. They do, you know, I've seen the gamut, right? The guy that's got the notebook with the Excel spreadsheet, you know, and he's got his lifts down to, you know, the exact weight, the timing, and you know, and I also see the guy that just goes to the gym and will bench 3 days in a row, you know.
Yeah.
And then everything in between. And what I've found is you can get strong in either way, but you know, you got to find something you could do for the rest of your life. You know, because ultimately, strength, you know, and you end up physically getting strong, but the byproduct is, for me, is what it's done for me, you know, mentally, you know, emotionally. You know, strength has really given me a life beyond my wildest imagination, and that sounds kind of goofy, but you know, from the kid that grew up, you know, very insecure and socially awkward and didn't really know. I mean, I played football, I ran track. You know, you know, I just knew that I had kind of a little bit of an athletic ability, and you know, strength, man, that to me, that was just something that really spoke to me. And you know, I've said it on numerous occasions. You know, I enjoy the pursuit of it, and what I found is, man, if you just stick with it, you know, whatever you gain, whatever effort, it's never lost on you.
Yeah.
You know, my strength has come back on multiple occasions, like a freight train, and it's not easy come, easy go. It comes very hard. Strength is a very hard fought battle. But once you get there, it's like blowing up a balloon. You know, the first time's a little hard. Each time it's a little easier. I wouldn't make it a habit of getting strong and then, you know, walking away from the gym. You know, but when life happens, you know, balance is key. And like I said before, you can only truly be really great at one thing, I think. You know, there's people out there that might think otherwise. You know, we have you know, a bunch of examples of people that are extremely successful at, you know, a lot of things, but like The Rock, I follow The Rock on Instagram, and that guy, man, but he wasn't immediately successful, you know, and he tried and he surrounded himself with very successful people, but at the end of the day, you know, he's an exception, not the rule. Yeah. And you know, I had a really good strength career, and now, you know, I choose a little different path, but you know, it's still part of my life. I didn't just go and not
walk away.
No, absolutely not. I just I feel kind of goofy posting a video of a you know, 765 deadlift or something. I don't know, and I feel weird filming myself in the gym. I just feel like a total douche. But I watch videos and I'm like, oh, that's cool, you know. And so people say post videos, I'm like, I just feel weird, you know. I don't know. Again, socially awkward. I don't know. I'm just a weirdo.
Just want to kind of get into like the technical side of training, like what your philosophy was technically. Like, how did you approach training, throwing the events in? Were you like an events one day type guy? Were you multiple times a week?
You know, my general philosophy with training when it came to, you know, strongman specific training was there had to be a means to the end. Like, if I'm bench pressing, there had to be a purpose behind it. If I'm deadlifting, there had to be a purpose behind it. Well, you see, obviously deadlifting, obviously squatting, but not the case. You know, everything had to be building up towards a goal. You know, so I thought of each competition like a clay mold, right? And I would have to mold myself into the object or into the tool that was best used for that competition. Yeah. You know, but with the understanding that things could change. An event could get dropped. There could be something could break. There's things that happen. So I felt that I would have a particular event day, but I as I got, you know, to the pinnacle of my strength, I found that I couldn't really do the event days that I could do back when I was an amateur or back when I was a new pro. You know, because the weights I was lifting were so heavy and the workload I was doing was so much. I really only had 2 like heavy yoke runs in me. Yeah. Maybe 1 or 2 heavy frame runs in me. maybe 1 or 2 stone runs in me, you know. So what I would do is I would have my event day only be 3 events.
Yeah.
You know, not 5 like you typically would see. Back in the day, I mean, event days were like 5 hours with a little intermission for lunch or dinner or something, you know. And you would do event after event after event. I mean, I would do stones for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You know, and I would do 4 or 5 stone series, which you know, and ending with a 400-pound stone. And you know, that did get me better at stones, but it made me worse at deadlifting and overhead pressing, you know? And vice versa. When I overhead pressed a ton, like my dumbbell would go through the roof, but then my stones would start to lag. I can only really focus on one event if I want to become like insane at it. So instead, I took approach like I wanted to be as well-rounded as possible. So I would, like, let's say if there's whatever overhead press was going to be focused on in that event, you know, log or it didn't make a difference. Log or dumbbell to me were so very similar. The problem is if it was log and there was an axle, which I'd seen a couple times. That was terrible. Log, axle, and deadlift would be the worst because my axle clean, my continental clean, would just absolutely throw off the timing of my deadlift. And the Arnold used to have a heavy axle clean press. And obviously heavy deadlift, and my deadlift would just go to tank as my axle goes through the roof. You know, I think I've cleaned a 454 axle before, and pressed it. So that not anyone that's ever, you know, you don't see axle in competition. That's a big axle clean. I mean, that's a monster clean, and felt fairly comfortable for me in Continental, obviously. So what I found is I had to separate the training a little bit. So I would do, my typical split was 5 days a week, 4 days of body part specific training that would have a strongman flavor to it. So let's say, for instance, Monday would be shoulders. And I like that because I didn't do much overhead on my actual event specific days. I would just do some lighter stuff in the beginning of my strongman workout to kind of give me a little bit of warm up, you know. So my actual overhead day at the gym on Monday would be, you know, I'd start off with whatever event I was training, you know, for that competition. So log or axle, dumbbell, whatever, and do multiple working sets, fairly heavy, or mimic the competition. If it was like a lighter, like a 200-pound for reps, I would do 2 or 3 sets of like 12 to 15 reps, which that's why my conditioning was good, because I would do that in the gym. It wasn't like I go in and be like, surprised I got 15 reps. Like I knew that I could do.
Yeah, you knew you were going in there with that.
I knew I was going in there with close to 18, you know, or something crazy. So I would do that, and then I would do seated military press or seated dumbbell press, lateral raises. And then, you know, high rep shrugs. I use like a frame or farmer's hand or something. So I'm getting some carryover. And for lateral raises, I would do holds, you know, usually typically. I found that those were pretty good, and they really helped carry over a lot into things like farmers or frame carries. Even like the log holding the rack, having a strong needle delt. Carryover was fantastic for holds. I would do them all the time, but I would kind of alternate them through because I tend to get little tendonitis issues with you know, constantly doing holds. So Tuesday is my arm day, and anyone that knows anything about me with arms is I do this crazy thing. So it's not like, oh, it's an easy day. No, my arm day was probably as brutal as any other days. I would do high rep curls. I would try to get multiple sets of 100 reps into the curls non-stop. And anyone's ever tried those? They're excruciatingly painful.
Yes, they are.
And the whole point I did them was to prevent a bicep rupture. And the funny thing is, it's actually worked. I've never ruptured the distal tendon, you know. Everything has been, you know, more in the proximal end, which there's really, you know, almost no way to really train proximal unless I do curls, you know, on the lat pull down behind the neck, you know. So, and I found it worked really good for my grip. So I would do that sort of stuff, and then some tricep movements. I really couldn't go that heavy. Occasionally I'd do like really heavy skull crushers around the Arnold time, and I found the really heavy skull crushers ironically helped me a lot with the log overhead. Anyone that has ever seen me do like a really heavy log, my lockout was always, even dumbbell, my lockout was great. So I didn't like a lot of close like tricep, close grip bench press and stuff. I found that would aggravate my shoulders, so I liked really heavy skull crushers, like 250, 270 pound range, you know, pretty heavy.
Wow, yeah.
And I actually tore my tricep doing that, you know. So that would be my typical Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off. Thursday was squat deadlifts. I would squat deadlift the same day. Yeah. I would prioritize for the Arnold deadlift, and then so I would deadlift, and then squat was my accessory for deadlift. Okay. So I'd be doing I deadlift narrow stance. You know, if you see me deadlift, it's narrow stance, high hip, shoulder width stance, high hip, round upper back.
Yeah.
You know, that's so I'm very posterior dominant deadlifter, so I would squat wide stance low bar, which is a perfect carryover. And you would think that they're not. They're completely the same. You know, both very, very insanely posterior dominant, and that wide stance low bar squat really leans you over, mimics that deadlift position, I feel. And then as I got closer to the Arnold, about 4 weeks before, I would drop the squats and the deadlift. So I would deadlift 1 week and I would squat the next week. So I only deadlift every 14 days, like 5 or 6 weeks out, because of the volume of deadlift. You know, when you're pulling reverse band 1,000-pound deadlifts to mimic the Arnold pull, you know, for triples, for 3 sets of singles, the workload was insane. Yeah. So squat deadlift on my Thursday, and if I was doing a car deadlift in an event, I would do car deadlift obviously on Thursday, followed by box squats, because that would be a good carryover. And then Friday was chest and back, and that's the day before my event training. Yeah. And I found that would help my pressing, believe it or not, even though it was the day before I'd be pressing again. My bench press was just a typical bench. I would just set up like a powerlifter and bench a lot of triples and sets of 5. Mm-hmm. Some incline obviously for the carryover. But as I did stuff like the Arnold, I would just do really heavy flat bench. I think the best I got to was 585. And I found that again, it helped me with my lockout a lot. And then just upper back to really strengthen my back for the deadlift, which works. I never really had any lat issues up until more recently, as my deadlift has increased and I don't really train my back like I used to, my upper back at least. So, and then event day, like I said, 3 events, maybe 4. I would be doing like some sort of overhead that would mimic the competition I'm doing. I would do I would choose usually one moving event. When I say that moving, I mean frame or farm. I mean frame farmers or yoke. I wouldn't do them both because they're so they're so similar. Yeah. So for the Arnold, obviously I did a lot of yoke. When we had yoke at the Arnold, and then I do my frame would come from doing the shrugs. And when the frame was really heavy up the incline and they dropped the yoke, I would do obviously really heavy frame up like an incline. Yeah. So I would do an overhead frame and then maybe some stones, and that would be it for my event day. And Sunday would be off. So kind of a long way. That was my split. So every day I try to mimic, what I was. Something. Yeah, I tried to have as much carryover for the competition I was doing, and then. My World's Strongest Man would come up, I would literally just throw everything in. I'd throw everything in. Yeah. Because I don't know what's going to.
Events are going to be.
Yeah. Historically, we don't know for about a month or so beforehand, and so I'd be doing everything from block to dumbbell. I mean, just really mixing up, and I enjoyed training for that. The Arnold was like work, where Worlds, I would surround myself with like 15 guys, and we would just go at it. You know, and it was fun. Like some guy, oh yeah, I want to do that today. It was like going to a buffet. Just as much as I can, 1 or 2 sets of multiple stuff, 5 or 6 movements, just to really try to get everything. So when I knew what the events were, I could get as strong as possible in 2 weeks of training before Worlds.
What do you think the biggest mistake a lot of people do coming in to Strongman?
I think most people, when it comes to competing on any level, they try to be the strongest before their first competition or any competition. You should. My best numbers shouldn't be in the gym. You should be out there. Historically, I've PR'd and set records, my personal records, competing. Which is key. So I think that generally, like I was talking about training for World's Strongest Man, I think a lot of people take that mindset, just go play with as much stuff as possible, and you kind of got to pace yourself. And you can't forget the big 3 lifts: squat, bench, deadlift. No matter, I don't care. I don't care if what anybody else tells you. I think that the basis and the foundation for strength is strength. I want to be universally strong. I want to be able to arm wrestle a guy. I don't want to get beat by like a 190-pound guy arm wrestling. That's not going to happen to me anytime soon, right? I don't want to get beat. I don't want a strong powerlifter or decent like amateur powerlifter to be able to out deadlift me. At the end of the day, I want to be universally strong, and I think that's the old school strongman mentality. Just show up the day of and just that I think is turned into, I want to be really good at every event.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen. You have to understand that. Just like, ride a motorcycle. I love bikes, right? If I go on one motorcycle to another, it's going to take a little bit of time for me to get used to it. I can't expect to be able to ride, one of 10 different bikes and be the absolute best on it and feel great. It's going to take a little bit of time. That's fine. Focus on the one that you want to ride, for the next couple weeks. And then when you're done with that one, it's kind of a weird analogy. I like cars and stuff, and ultimately that's the most important thing is, focus on something, train through it, and then, try something else. But trying to be good at stones and frame and farmers and yoke and axle and single fingers and sandbag. You can get all those respectable, but just prioritize.
Yeah.
That's why you have stuff like block periodization. Rotate through different disciplines and different methods of training.
Yeah, no, it definitely, because we all, if you've been in the sport for longer than a year, you know that you might show up to a competition and 2 events are out the window. They got 2 new events because of logistics, and so you always got to be strong and ready. And that's one thing I think a lot of people forget. You show up to a competition, the weights change, the event changes, and then they're just like, "Well, I didn't train for this." That's Strongman.
Well, and that's exactly plays my point. I think that almost causes almost over preparation, though.
Yeah.
I think that get good at your basics.
Yeah.
Farmer frame, get that because after once the grips settle and you have a good grip, then it's yoke training, right? So if your yoke sucks and your farmer and frame are good, well then break that down and get good at the yoke, because the better you get at the yoke, the better your farmers or frame's going to be. So, and then stones, if you're working on stones and you're trying to really perfect your axle clean, there's going to be some logistic issues with that, because a stone load, super high hip, bent over, a stone lap, it's just going to be counterintuitive, so, you rotate through maybe 3 weeks of focusing on stones, and then 3 weeks of focusing on, your deadlift, and 3 weeks of focusing on your log. Log and dumbbell, some people disagree. For me, they're fairly similar. Even log, dumbbell and axle too, because the way you kind of kick the hips. But when you talk about trying to, so I can train those at different ends of the week and I can get better. And even with axle, but it's like the axle clean and the deadlift. Those are and it take direction. Because at the end of the day, ask a guy. Ask a guy that you respect. And if he tells you something different than so be it. Follow him. Because at the end of the day, everything works, but nothing works forever.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I've learned is you can look at like all the small offers. Like, who would have thought that squatting every day would get your squat up? Right. That's counterintuitive to everything that I know about training, but it works. Yeah. And same thing with the mini small, with the bench. Where you're benching multiple times a week. That just seems ridiculous, but it works, right? So that really. And look at CrossFit, I know plenty of CrossFit, guys and girls, men and women that, they're squatting, they're deadlifting and cleaning every day, and they get stronger. So I think, I'm not saying that that's the answer. I'm saying that the answer is everything works, but nothing works forever.
Exactly.
So, humble yourself, do something you don't want to do. And this goes for the pros, the top guys out there in the world. Humble yourself, do something you don't want to do, listen to direction. Because if you're doing it, that's great. But if you're forced to do something you don't want to do, there's a reason that you don't want to do it. Yeah. Because the body's like, I don't like doing that. So do it, and watch the results start coming.
Yeah.
Or in my case, you get injured or something. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I think you do it, but like most of us, you just push yourself too far sometimes.
Yeah.
And but it's a common thing with most strongmen, I would say. Most competitive strongmen have been around for a while. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, we. I know me. I love the feeling of redlining.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of bad, but I love the feeling of getting to that point where like so you see a lot in powerlifting. You get that guy who's squatting, he's pushing the whole like you talk to him afterwards, he just ekes out like a big squat. And he's like, oh, I totally shit my pants, or something like that. Or a guy who's puking backstage after, and they're like, oh god, that was terrible. I got the lift, and they're so excited. But they it's not that they're not like, some people are not, not like, well, it was fantastic puking,
Yeah.
or that feeling before, or if anyone that's done a lot of cardio or pushed themselves, like done wind sprints,
Yeah.
that's particularly what my forte was. I would do wind sprints, but on a treadmill. I'd push a treadmill belt when it was off for a period of 2 minutes to 8 minutes nonstop, and get my heart rate up to 190 beats a minute, whatever. And I love functioning in that realm where you're in so much pain you want to puke and shit at the same time. Like where your fingertips go numb and your head's purple. If you ever watch a video of me at where that's happening, you'll see I usually afterwards I love it, and that's probably some sort of sick personality issue that I've yet to discover. But I love the function there, and that's ultimately one of the reasons why I retired, because it's a scary thought, of what's happening inside my body where my blood just stops moving because my systolic and diastolic pressure are equal because I'm pushing so hard, man. It's a crazy thing we do to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, it's for me, it's been motivating seeing how much that's motivated others, and that to me is it's also humbling.
Yeah.
But,
Well, great. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything you want to say? Get out there.
I think I've said too much.
I think you said too much.
That's all things usually. I go a little overboard, but it's been a pleasure. I mean, I'm glad we did this. I've known you for a period of time, and I've met you several different times over your career, and I'm glad that you're taking this this step. I think that once you put something out there, articles and footage, it's my hope and my belief, and obviously because I watch a lot of stuff online, and I read a lot of stuff, and it really influences more than I think you could possibly realize. The kid that's getting into working out, the kid that's getting bullied, that sees one of your videos and is motivated and says, "Hey, I want to be like that guy." That's it might not make you rich, monetarily. Maybe hopefully it will, but at the end of the day, it'll make you rich beyond wildest imaginations, because having the ability to influence people. It could be the 30-year-old guy that's kind of sitting in the cubicle that is like, why, what's the point of life, and he gets into working out and happens upon your stuff, or the 16-year-old kid that gets bullied and decides to work out and turns into a world's strongest man competitor. Who knows? So I appreciate that you're doing this, and I appreciate you coming out to the small town of Brantford.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and
Thanks, man.
Hope to see more of you. And guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please visit our sponsors, Elite FTS, Hate Brand Goods, and Train Strongman. And I'll see you guys out on the road. Thanks.